Okay, so this weekend turned out to be way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I was not expecting this at all, but here we are, and honestly, I am kind of glad things played out the way they did, because what we are about to talk about is not your typical race weekend news. This is the kind of stuff that gets you thinking about what is really going on inside these teams, what decisions are being made behind closed doors, and where things might be headed for the rest of the season. We have got two major driver changes happening at the same time, both of them connected to the Xfinity Series race at Martinsville, and both of them tell a bigger story about NASCAR right now. One of these moves I honestly did not see coming at all, and I think a lot of you are going to feel the same way once you hear it. Before we get into all of that, though, if you are new to this channel, welcome. This is NASCAR Nation Report, and this is exactly what we do here. We talk NASCAR the way real fans talk about it. No fluff, no filler, just honest breakdowns of what is happening in the sport we love. We are still in the early days of building this community, and we are working toward our first 10,000 subscribers. If you enjoy this kind of content, please hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps more than you might think, and it means we can keep putting out content like this for fans who actually care about the details. All right, now let us get into it. The first story involves Ross Chastain, and if you have been paying any attention to this season, you already know that this guy has been incredibly active. Chastain has basically been racing everything he can get into in 2026, and that's not an exaggeration. He's a full-time Cup Series driver, but under the newer rules that NASCAR put in place, Cup drivers who have been around for more than 3 years can now run up to 10 Xfinity Series races in a single season. That number used to be capped at 5, so the rule change opened up a lot more opportunity for Cup guys to jump into Xfinity races, and Chastain has been taking full advantage of that. Just recently at Darlington, he ran in the Truck Series with Nice Motorsports and finished second. That's a strong result by any measure. On top of that, he also made an Xfinity start at the same event, this time with JR Motorsports. He was in the part-time number 9 Chevrolet and brought it home in 14th place. It was not a flashy finish, but it was a solid, clean run in a competitive field, and it showed that Chastain is comfortable jumping between different teams and different series without missing a beat. Now here's where things get interesting. That number 9 car is going back on track this weekend at Martinsville, but Chastain is not driving it. JR Motorsports has decided to put someone else behind the wheel for this race, and that someone is Lee Pulliam. When I first heard this, I had to do a double take. It's one of those announcements that just makes you stop and say, wait, really? So who is Lee Pulliam? He's 37 years old, comes from Samora, North Carolina, and by all accounts, he's a legitimate short-track racer. The guy has won 4 national championships in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series Division I, which is the top level of NASCAR's weekly racing program. That's not a small thing. 4 national titles means you have been consistently beating the best weekly racers in the country over multiple seasons. He's also picked up 3 wins on the Cars Late Model Stock Car Tour, which is another respected regional series. So within the world of short track and weekly racing, Pulliam has serious credentials. But here's the reality of the situation. When it comes to NASCAR's national series, the big 3 of Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks, his experience is almost non-existent in recent memory. He made 6 starts back in 2014 in what was then called the K&N Pro Series East, and that's basically it. We are talking about a gap of over a decade between those starts and this Martinsville opportunity. That's a massive jump from the weekly racing world into a highly competitive Xfinity field at one of the most demanding short tracks on the entire NASCAR schedule. Now, the reason this move makes at least some sense on paper is that Martinsville is a short track, and short tracks are where Pulliam has spent most of his career. If there is any place where his background could translate to success at the national level, it is probably a half-mile paperclip like Martinsville. Teams had made crazier bets and come out looking smart. But it is also true that there is a big difference between running well on your home turf in regional competition and going door-to-door with Xfinity regulars who race these cars week in and week out. It could be a brilliant decision, or it could be a really steep learning curve for Pulliam. Either way, it is a fascinating experiment. As for Chastain, he is not sitting out this weekend. He is still racing at Martinsville in the Xfinity Series, just with a completely different team. He will be in the number 91 Chevrolet for DGM Racing, running in partnership with Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. And when you step back and look at his Xfinity schedule so far in 2026, it is kind of wild. This will be his third different team in just 4 Xfinity starts this season. He ran with one team, then another, and now a third. Add to that the Truck Series appearances and his full-time Cup commitments, and the guy is genuinely one of the busiest drivers in NASCAR right now. He also already has 2 more Xfinity races scheduled for later this year. He is set to run at Watkins Glen in May and Sonoma in June, both with Jordan Anderson Racing, which is the same team he ran with earlier this season at Atlanta and Talladega. So there is clearly a plan in place for him to keep racking up Xfinity starts throughout the season, and with the new 10-race limit, he still has room to do more. The Pulliam situation at Martinsville looks more like a one-off rotation than a permanent change. Chastain will almost certainly be back in that number 9 car at some point, but the fact that JR Motorsports is using this weekend to give Pulliam a shot is still a notable decision worth paying attention to. Now let us move to the second story, because this one is also worth your full attention. It involves J.J. Yeley, a veteran who has been racing in NASCAR for a very long time. We are talking about a driver who was trying to make 2026 his 22nd Cup Series season and his 23rd year of competition in NASCAR's National Series overall. That kind of longevity is genuinely rare in any sport, and it speaks to how much Yeley loves racing and how persistent he has been throughout his career. He attempted to qualify for the Daytona 500 this year with NY Racing Team, but didn't make it in. However, he came back the very next week at Atlanta and got into the race, which showed he was not giving up on his Cup Series ambitions. Since Atlanta, though, he has not been back in a Cup car. He has stayed active in the Xfinity Series instead. He ran at Talladega with Young's Motorsports, although that race had some complications and Brad Perez actually had to step in mid-race, with the team finishing 28th. Then Yeley came back at Darlington with Hattori Racing and crossed the line in 25th place. Hattori Racing's number 5 Ford has been a bit of a revolving door this season when it comes to drivers. They have already cycled through several names, including Luke Fenhaus, Tyler Gonzalez, and Chandler Smith. Now, Yeley is being moved out for Martinsville as well, and stepping in to replace him is Luke Baldwin. Baldwin is 19 years old, and this will be his very first Xfinity Series start. That's a big deal. Making your series debut is always a significant moment, and doing it at Martinsville makes it even more of a challenge. Baldwin's background is mostly in the Truck Series. He ran 5 races in 2025 with ThorSport Racing and put together some decent results. His best finish was 12th place at Pocono, which shows he has some ability to run competitively. What works in his favor heading into Martinsville specifically is that he has actually raced there before in trucks and finished 22nd, so he is not going in completely cold to the track. He has some feel for the layout, the bumps, and the general rhythm of racing on that particular half mile. That experience, even though it came in a different series in a different car, is still worth something. That said, making the jump from trucks to Xfinity at Martinsville is no small thing. The competition level is different, the cars handled differently, and Martinsville in particular is one of those tracks where everything happens quickly and there is very little room for error. You have got a tight, flat layout where beating and banging is just part of the deal, and drivers who are not used to that environment can find themselves in trouble pretty quickly. Baldwin is going to have to be smart, patient and focused if he wants to come out of this weekend with a result he can feel good about. Just like with the Pulliam situation, there is no long-term clarity here around Baldwin or Yaley. Hattori Racing has not announced anything beyond this single race. They have not committed to Baldwin for future events, and they have not officially closed the door on Yaley coming back at some point. It feels like the team is still figuring things out, trying different people and seeing who fits best with what they are trying to build or accomplish this season. That kind of uncertainty can be frustrating from a fan perspective, but it is also an honest reflection of where some of these smaller Xfinity teams are operating right now. When you look at both of these stories side by side, they actually connect in a really interesting way. On one hand, you have Ross Chastain, a Cup Series veteran who is using his experience and the new rule allowances to stay sharp in multiple series while keeping his name out there across different teams. On the other hand, you have teams giving opportunities to people like Pulliam, a respected short-track racer who has never really gotten a look at this level, and Baldwin, a teenager still early in his career trying to prove himself. It is this fascinating mix of experience, talent, and raw potential all showing up at the same race on the same weekend at the same short track. Martinsville has a way of creating moments. It is one of the oldest tracks on the schedule, one of the smallest, and one of the most intense. Mistakes get punished fast, emotions run high, and every now and then, someone nobody expected to make noise ends up doing exactly that. That is what makes this weekend worth watching beyond just who leads laps or wins the race. There are real storylines unfolding that could have lasting effects on careers and future opportunities. Does Pulliam go out there and prove that short-track excellence translates at the national level? Does Baldwin hold his own in his series debut and show enough to earn another call? And what do all these moving parts tell us about how teams in the Xfinity Series are approaching driver decisions right now? These are the kinds of questions that make following NASCAR more than just watching cars turn left for a few hundred laps. This is what keeps the sport alive between the races themselves, the decisions, the gambles, the stories behind who is in what car and why. And if you're the kind of fan who cares about all of that, not just the checkered flag, then you are in the right place. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you like seeing teams take these kinds of chances on new and unexpected names? Or do you think they should be leaning on more experienced drivers with proven results at this level? There is no wrong answer here, and I genuinely want to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please give the video a like and make sure you are subscribed to NASCAR Nation Report. We are still growing this community, and every subscriber genuinely matters as we chase that first 10,000. We talk NASCAR the way fans actually talk about it, and there is a lot more coming. Stay locked in.